Hello everybody, and welcome to the first YouTube video from the Geeky Gaming Guild YouTube channel. My name is Caleb, and this is just kind of like a passion project that I've started to share my hobbies that I enjoy with everybody else. And so the first thing I want to do in this video today is share a little bit about myself, and then we're going to be talking about an army list for Infinity, the game that I'm going to be playing later today. And then I'm also going to be sharing my hot take on a reveal that came out recently for the game. So first things first is let's go ahead and talk about the channel and myself a little bit, give a little bit of preface. So like I mentioned, I've played a lot of tabletop games, and I started in the tabletop gaming hobby with card games shortly after I got out of high school. And so that was around 2013 or so. And I learned how to play Magic the Gathering, got super hooked on that type of stuff. And then I discovered miniatures games for the first time. And the first one I ever tried out was War Machine, and I loved it. I met some really awesome people. I enjoyed the whole aspect of the game. I wish I had been more into the painting element at that time, but now I really enjoy that part too. And after I had my first kid, I got back into trying to have more hobbies that kept me doing stuff at home. And so I got back into miniatures, and I've not turned back. So the game I play the most right now is called Infinity, the game by Corvus Belli. So a lot of the content I'm going to share with you guys will be focused on that game for a while, especially since there's a brand new edition of the game about to come out. Other games I play are going to be basically all the variants of Warhammer. I also really enjoy an older one called Guild Ball that I'll probably share with you at times as well. My game plan is to talk about army lists, share some painting projects with you, and then also answer questions that you guys give me. So today we're going to be focused on a couple army lists and then a hot take about what I think is a really cool release. So let's go ahead and get into that stuff now. So what you see in the backdrop behind you that you probably maybe have already been looking at is the army list I'm going to be playing in a game tonight. So the army that I mostly play currently in Infinity is called Imperial Service. Their whole aesthetic is that they're this like elite police force that works for a like Asian empire in the future. They're a lot of fun. They're really cool, and they give me my fix of painting orange armor, so that's one of the main reasons I like the army. So I'm testing a list that I might play in my final tournament of Infinity before the new rules comes out, and it's a mission called Highly Classified. I've never played it before because it's so random. How it works is that I would have to draw tasks from the classified deck, and that would be like my whole mission objective for the game. And so it's very random. You can't predict it ahead of time very well. There's 20 options that could be drawn as classifieds. So you just have to kind of bring a army list that could do a lot of them and hope for the best. So this is my take on an army list intended for that. So it's a pretty diverse list, I feel like, compared to what I would normally play with this army. And so I'm going to share with you what I have in mind for that. So the big thing for this army list is it's very focused on one profile, and that profile is the Zanying Imperial Agent, and specifically the Hacker. So the Zanying Hacker is, to my understanding, the most diverse trooper that you could bring in an Infinity Imperial Service army if you're trying to do classifieds. So he's a hacker, he's a veteran, he has Sixth Sense, not as relevant to that part of it, but he also carries D-charges if he's the hacker. So him by himself can do more of the classifieds than he can't do. So that's kind of the big thing for me, is my whole game plan is try to satisfy a bunch of the classified missions between him and one other trooper that I'll share later. So my whole game plan is to try to mess with my opponent and take out a bunch of my opponent's troops so that my two main mission play guys can do their job undistracted. So my Zanying Imperial Agent can't do that by himself. So he's part of a Harris team, and when you play Imperial Service, you have a really cool fire team composition that you're allowed to play that I'm pulling up on the screen now called a Law and Order fire team. So a Law and Order fire team is a very flexible fire team It doesn't benefit from purity bonuses. Like, you use a variety of different guys in the team, so you're mostly just getting the basic fire team benefits. But for me, it gives me an opportunity to take one or two guys that I'm using for the mission, pair them with a really good fighter, and be able to move them up the board. So for me, in this list, I'm using a Crane Agent, the Spitfire profile, with my Zanying Imperial Agent, and then also with Guy Fang Z Xuan. Don't know if I said his name right. Please don't hate me in the comments over that. But my whole game plan is to have these three guys run around and play the mission after I've messed with my opponent enough and slowed them down. So their whole thing is that they're going to be able to take fights while trying to fight over the objectives. The Zanying and Guy Fang will be able to push the button and then be able to do the mission, while the Crane Agent is bodyguarding them. So that's my main mission scoring game plan, but it's not what I'm planning to start the game with. So before I'm able to really do the mission with them, I wouldn't want to just start advancing them up the board right away. So my primary game plan is to take out as many of my opponent's troopers in the first round of the game using two primary attack pieces, and that is the Sujian and the Ruishi. So I'm going to share with you how I'm planning to use them. So the Sujian, his whole job is to be a hyper-aggressive, fly up the board, lay a bunch of shotgun templates on people, and just take out things as fast as possible. At least that's how I use them. So, and it's worked pretty well for me in the past, so I'm going to keep rolling with it until it messes up. So the Sujian Immediate Action Unit is a very, very specialized heavy infantry for Yujing. It's very good in Yujing's vanilla faction as well as in Imperial Service. If you could use it in every version of Yujing, you would. So the big thing about the Sujian is that he's very mobile. He is very strong. And then when it comes to fighting and through guns, not so much through close combat. He's mostly a ballistic skill attacker or template attacker. And so for me, how I use him is I'm trying to get to my opponent's flank under the cover of smoke, and I'm trying to start taking out his orders. I'm trying to take out his specialists that he's trying to protect early in the game, and so it makes him have to completely change his game plan. So that's my whole thing with the Sujian, is I'm trying to, on my active turn one, fly him up the board after I get some smoke templates down and just start wrecking havoc on my opponent's backline. My more upfront shooting attacker is my backup plan for that early aggression, and that's the Ruishi remote. So my game plan with the Ruishi is to put some buffs on him using my Evo hacker, and then using smoke, I'll try to create some very suboptimal lines of fire for my opponent that I can take advantage of. So I'll throw out smoke templates, and then with the Ruishi, I can use his equipment, his multispectral visor level 2, to shoot through smoke and be able to take out my opponent's pieces when they have really heavy negative modifiers on them. So that's kind of the whole game plan with those two. I want to be able to take out a bunch of their pieces so that I can focus on moving my main fire team up to do the mission. Most of the stuff I've mentioned needs smoke coverage. So one of the big elements of this list, and a big element of a lot of Yujing lists, is the Quangxi. So I have a 5-man core of Quangxi, the Celestial Guard Monitor, and 4 chain rifle guys, and their whole game plan is to protect my backline and shoot a bunch of smoke out. They're going to be my main enabler. They're going to be laying out the smoke so that my primary team and that my aggressive pieces can move up the board without getting shot off the board first. So they are a huge, crucial core piece that I can use to trade with late and that can help provide orders early. So they are a huge, huge piece of my list. It wouldn't probably function without them. And that rounds out Group 1. So Combat Group 1 is a full group of 10 orders, and then I have a full 5-man group in Group 2. So I have a max 15 guys in this list. I'm trying to go for order efficiency as much as possible. So in Group 2, I have 2 main things to talk about. That is my support guys and then my other fire team. So my support guys are my Sophatect and my Pangling Evo hacker. So I'll talk about the Sophatect first. The Sophatect's main job is to keep my army alive. So that is literally what he does, and he does it very well. So he's the only doctor or engineer in all of Imperial Service. We do have one other little paramedic, but it's also an ally. So the Sophatect is actually an AOF unit that I can play in Imperial Service. And his main job is to keep stuff alive, heal things back, and score classifieds. So a lot of the classifieds, he's my only good option for doing. In anything involving engineer, is just him. So I use the Sophatech to keep my attack pieces alive. I use it to protect my sniper that I'll get to in a minute. And then I also use it to keep the Ruishi doing its thing too. I use two Yudbots, two little servants with the Sophatech. One of them usually bodyguards the sniper, and then the other I keep hidden and use to go and try to pick back up my aggressive pieces. So that's my main uses of the Sophatech. The other support piece I have in Group 2 is the Evo Hacker. The Evo Hacker is super useful in this army. I have two very aggressive heavy infantry that I try to move up the board a lot in the Sujian and the Crane Agent in that fire team. So being able to protect them with fairy dust from hacking, it's my only way to do it. I don't really have another good way in this list of doing that. So that's its priority number 1. Priority number 2 is my other attack piece, the Ruishi. It's how I make it work. The Evo Hacker is able to give the assisted fire supportware program to the Ruishi so that he has marksmanship. And that is huge. Being able to ignore cover on a primary shooting piece is awesome, and it's a lot of fun to use in game. So that is my other mostly primary use of the Pangolin. So that's my two support things I have in Group 2. They're also in Group 2 because they're things I don't use early game a lot, other than to just throw a support program out. Their main use is late game to keep the game going and to actually give me a turn 2 and 3 that actually does something. So the other thing I have in Group 2 is the thing that I just kind of set it and forget it. Like, it's not like an active piece at all. And that's my multi-sniper Celestial Guard. So I have a Harris team built around that. You could call it a core team if you wanted, but it's a Harris team. It's a 3-man team. So the primary piece of that is built around the line infantry from Imperial Service, the Celestial Guard. So I have, what's in my opinion, the best support weapon option that you have in that profile, and that's the multi-sniper rifle. So a lot of times I'll set the multi-sniper rifle really far back on my backline, guarding my deployment, where in a place where it has a decent fire lane as my opponent tries to move toward an objective or move up the board. And my whole game plan there is just to try to get a couple lucky rolls and take some things out early. And then if I roll bad and he gets knocked, and he'll go unconscious behind some cover, and then I'll use a Yudbot to pick it back up, and then try to have that ARO presence through most of the game. It's gone okay a couple times, and then a couple times he dies on turn 1 and does nothing. But at the points investment I'm at with the Celestial Guard team, I don't feel so bad about it. The backup game plan with this team is I have another smoke grenade launcher in this Celestial Guard Harris. So in case I accidentally lose the one that's with the Quangshi, I have a backup option for providing smoke. And then I have my lieutenant here. So my lieutenant is kind of a strategic choice here. If I don't have a chain of command option, I don't like taking the Lieutenant Crane agent, but the Crane could be the lieutenant in this list. I have 2 willpower 14 possible lieutenants in the army list for people who know Yujing and Imperial Service well. So it's not automatically obvious who my lieutenant is, but it's still kind of obvious because usually I just make him go prone behind some cover. So if someone assumes the Crane's not the lieutenant, they know to go after my lieutenant that way. But it hasn't come back to bite me yet, so I'm going to keep doing it for now. Pretty much covered all of the main pieces of this army list. So what I would like to see from you guys is I'd love to get some feedback on what you would change about this list, especially in terms of using it for classified heavy missions, because that's the intention. It probably could use another specialist or 2, but I really try to prioritize having a max 15 order list and then going from there. So I'm hoping that being aggressive and then worrying about the mission will work out okay. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that, especially if you're an experienced player, because I'm still learning the game myself. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and move on to kind of my next big talking point today, and that's going over some of the more recent reveals from Corvus Belli in terms of Infinity. So I love Yujing in general. And whenever I saw this show up on the things that were revealed, I went crazy because I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right. So let me show you what I mean by that. And I'll explain why this is kind of a hot take. So this is one of the upcoming releases coming out from Corvus Belli. And I think it's in October, this month. I think it's this month release in October. One of the big things about this is that they've taken what used to be like 3 individual blisters and put them together in an expansion pack. And they've called it like a White Banner Yujing expansion pack. They've said both of those names, and that's what I'd like to talk about. So, yes, all three of these models are Yujing models, but they're not all three White Banner models. So we're about to have N5 come out, and it's an opportunity for them to kind of rebalance and change up what's included in different sectorials, and I am guessing the Hacktow is finding a new home. So this big scary dude right here, he's the Hacktow. He's one of like the original Yujing heavy infantry profiles, and he's crazy because he has hidden deployment. So if you don't know a whole lot about Infinity, you may not know how cool that is. A hidden deployment in the game means that while you're setting up your models, your opponent basically has to turn around backwards and not look at the board, and you get to decide where he goes without your opponent knowing. And then later in the game, he gets to magically pop up and scare your opponent whenever you use him as an arrow piece or just bring him into play on the active turn. So the Hacktow has camouflage. He's a heavy infantry. He has hidden deployment. And then another really scary thing is he has mimetism -6 in N4. So he is just a crazy gunfighter, but then he's also a just genuinely terrifying piece that can also be an NCO. So NCOs are things that are able to spin lieutenant orders like they were the lieutenant. And so without giving away who your lieutenant is, he can be a very aggressive piece. My big thing about this is that the Hacktow is part of Invincible Army and then part of Vanilla Yujing, but not part of White Banner. But he's in this White Banner pack. So I have been speculating that he might show up on the White Banner roster for N5. I think that would be crazy because White Banner is known for being a very camouflage-heavy faction and very good at doing that. And then the Hacktow would just give them a whole nother element. So typically in White Banner, you have the Hundun, which is also the guy in this pack, the Hundun Heavy Rocket Launcher. He's a really scary guy. He is a heavy rocket launcher that is a hidden deployment X-Visor template ARO that's just super, super useful. But this pack has him and the Hacktow. And so if you were able to include both of those in a list, that's two different, very starkly different hidden deployment profiles you could use in an army. So I've been playing around with the idea of what could be if the Hacktow were in White Banner based off this. This could be purely speculation, but I think it's good fun. So I'm going to share with you guys what I would play in N4 if the Hacktow were part of White Banner. And shout out to the Yamao hacker in this pack, because if this is the thing, I'm buying this, because I would include at least 2 out of 3 of these guys in that army. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I would be playing for a White Banner list that has a Hacktow. So I kind of mentally made the limit of this army be 4.5 support weapon cost and 235 points, because the most expensive Hacktow profile is 1.5 support weapons cost and 65 points, so I could fit any Hacktow profile I wanted into this list. So I'm going to run you through very briefly what I have here. I'm not going to spend as much time on this list as I did on the first one. So keep in mind that the whole gimmick is I'm trying to be focused around a really aggressive Hacktow profile taking over the game when my opponent doesn't know that's what's coming. So with this list, my opponent won't know if there's 2 hidden Hunduns, assuming that's an allowable option in this army, or whether it's a Hacktow if that becomes a thing, because there are 65 completely unknown points in this list, and I don't have as many camouflage units as I'd like to have in the list, so I'd probably want to play around with it a little bit more and find a way to fit a Guilang or 2, so that could make it look like maybe it's a Daofei when it's really a Hacktow that's hidden. There's a lot of mind games you can play with White Banner with their camouflage units. So keep in mind, hidden Hacktow is the main gimmick. So the other elements I have of this list are a Liang Kai double Shaolin Monk Harris team to be order filler as well as an aggressive element that can provide smoke. 2 of the other important units I have in this list is a Yamao hacker and a Dokubai hacker. So their whole gimmick is that they're going to be a guided missile strike portion of the army and make it look like that's what I'm actually trying to do, is be focused on getting some repeaters up the board with the Dokubai and then using the Yamao and him to spotlight people and then to try to shoot some guided missile strikes. But really, that's a diversion. I'm wanting to try to make my opponent get overly aggressive to come take out that element and then surprise them with the Hacktow. So a lot of the other elements of the list are protecting my backline, the Long Yaws with the Beast Hunters and She-Fire team back here. I'm trying to keep that element of my army alive while making it look like the hacking and Ruishi are really what I'm trying to do. But actually, I'm trying to get them to overcommit, come to my side of the board, and then just start wasting things with the hack Tau after I reveal it. I think that would be a really, really fun way to play, and until my opponents started hating me for it. But at some point, I'll probably play something like this in vanilla Yujing just to get my fix for it, just in case it doesn't get added to White Banner. But for now, I'm daydreaming and it sounds fun. So I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think would happen if Hack Tau were in White Banner. I think that's a really cool thing to think about. And I'd also like to hear how, when a Hack Tau has been good for you, if you've used him in Vanilla Yujing or in Invincible Army. So looking forward to getting feedback from you guys on the 2 army lists I've shown here today and my hot take of the day. So I appreciate if you guys have made it this far in the video. At this point, I'd like to share and do some shout outs to some other content creators that have been really useful for me in learning about Infinity, in case you want to learn more. So I've listened to a ton of the Whip 12 podcast. They do a lot of really interesting things where they talk about different sectorials. I love their format of the good, the bad, and the ugly, where they talk about good things in the army, not so great things, and then things they wouldn't take. It was really useful for me in of trying to avoid making bad purchases when starting out in the game. Some other YouTube channels that I'd really like for you guys to pay attention to and to get some information from. The first one is the Infinity Gamer. He is really awesome. He does some great videos talking about new releases. That, as I've noticed, I think that's a once a month thing for him. And then he also gives information about new news that comes out about the game. Another really useful tactics YouTube channel that I like a lot. I used to listen to Vol SC when I was first wanting to learn about Infinity and play it the first time around, but some of his stuff isn't as current. Someone who does have a lot of current tactics type things is Robert Shepard. So he has a YouTube channel where he talks about different sectorials and different army rosters, but then he also has some battle reports and things like that as well that are worth checking out. The last YouTube channel I want to share with you guys today, I'll probably think of more next time, but I wanted to share the Dice Gods Wargaming channel with you. He is he seems like a really nice guy. He has a lot of useful information, and he recently shared an interview he got to do with Carlos from Corvus Belli, where he got to share a lot of details about the upcoming N5 stuff. So if you don't know much about the upcoming edition, and if you're an Infinity player, go check that out. Again, not supported by these people in any way. Just feel like it's worth getting this out there if you want to learn more about the game. Thank you guys for watching and for checking in. My next video I have planned is going to be sharing kind of my synopsis of how the game goes today for the highly classified mission, and sharing what I would change about my list. And then I'm probably going to do that live, where taking into account how the game went and showing you how I go about making changes to a list after I try one. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. I'm also going to be doing another new video in the near future showing you my new painting project I'm picking up today. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be pretty cool. I also have a TikTok channel if you'd like to check it out. I'm going to be kind of pairing those together starting today. So if you haven't checked that out, I believe my TikTok is Caleb Bolin 5. I'll drop that in the YouTube description. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I'd love to hear what you guys would like to see related to Infinity in future videos.